Um, when I was told to speak, I wasn't quite sure what to talk about because there's so many things you could say in 15 minutes. So I asked myself, what's the one thing I'd want to say that I'd be comfortable talking about? And I figured Jemvude, where I come from, directly translating in Luganda, is something I'd want to say. So I was born in a village in Rakai, about 160 kilometers southwest of Uganda. Both my parents died in 1980s. In the 1980s, as you can imagine, the AIDS epidemic was very high, and it was a difficult background as I grew up. Luckily, I was adopted by a loving family who took me in, and I grew up in Nairobi and later America, where I was able to get a solid foundation in education. After that, I came back to Uganda, and I've been living here since 2005. It's been a great journey for me as I've tried to discover who I am and what life is all about. Most of the time, I've made a lot of mistakes, and that's the whole fun of it. Because when you make mistakes, then at least you're doing something. The first time I got into an encounter with what I could possibly be passionate about was in high school. I remember my dad giving me a video camera, and I started shooting home videos. Often when they were away in Uganda, I would be back home making mock-ups of dance videos and stuff, which were really embarrassing. And one time, my dad came across the tapes, and it was really embarrassing because I was in his study room busting a few moves by Ja Rule. And instead of getting mad at me, he decided to enroll me into a film class. And from the film class, I started getting more passionate about what I wanted to do. And when it came to university, it became obvious that what I really wanted to do was film. So I enrolled for mass communication. And at university, at the end of it, I decided to partner with my old-time friend Carlos, and we started a media company. A couple of months later, we had made quite a bit of money, and I wasn't quite sure how to handle the initial success of running a small company, and you've made a little bit of money out of university. And at that point, I felt the only way it feels like it's so high that the only way is to go down. And in my head, I started having all these thoughts and fears. Oh my God, what's going to happen if I continue doing what I'm doing? At that time, I had also linked up with my old high school buddy, who was a programmer, and we had decided to start a company, Butterfly Technology, to make scalable solutions for Africa. So I had Carlos and Patrick, which is a creative company, in one hand, and Butterfly Tech in the other. It's kind of like a Steve Jobs kind of thing, Pixar and Apple all together. However, 4 months down the road, the tech company was bankrupt because we lost the laptop, and the creative company wasn't doing much, and I was heavily in debt, which forced me to get a job. And I had to go get a job, and I did that for about 9 months. But after 9 months, I realized that in the true pursuit of who we are, we have to take very deliberate steps to pursue what we really want, and it's not going to be easy. There's a famous quote that you have to lose sight of shore to find the next island. So that's what exactly did. I quit my job. I moved back home, as embarrassing as it was, and I started Zebra, from scratch in my parents' backyard, and it was quite embarrassing because I was still sleeping in the same bed I did in high school, and everything around me seemed to indicate that I wasn't doing much with my life. And just a couple of months down the road, just when I thought I was about to make a breakthrough, I got the bad news from the doctor that I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. Now, chronic kidney disease is when your kidneys can no longer take the toxins out of your body, so you continuously need dialysis, and of course the long-term solution to that is a transplant. What this did was it broke me, because at that point I was at the lowest point in my life, and this diagnosis made it very difficult because when you're diagnosed with stage 5 kidney disease, you have so many limitations. For example, you can't eat matoke anymore. You have to go on a machine for 4 hours twice a week, and so many other things. But I'm so grateful for having a supportive family and supportive friends that were able to talk me through it. I remember being in Mulago Hospital, on Fourth Ward, very dirty, because that's the only place where the neurologist was. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? All my dreams seem to fade right in front of me. But this was 2 days before Christmas. As I was getting discharged, I made myself a promise that no matter what would happen, I would never use my condition or my limitations as an excuse not to getting things done. So even with the little energy I had, I started working away, little by little. It was very difficult because a distance of, let's say, 1 mile, I could walk in just a couple of minutes per se. Now it was taking me about 3 times more. And even the things I wanted to do, I couldn't do them anymore. It was really difficult, and this was 2015. But the advantage with that is that when life presents you with something really difficult to deal with, it forces you to see life in a new way. It's sort of like a butterfly. Initially, when it's a caterpillar, it will think, "Oh, I understand life. This is what it's all about." But then a couple of months later, when it turns into a butterfly, it's like, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea this was another stage." So as I speak now, I am grateful that I've been able to make it this far, and I'm proud to say that I have a donor. And in a couple of months, I'll be going to India to have a transplant done. And to that, I feel, even though it feels like I got off the journey, initially when I quit my job and I want to be a venturepreneur. Just to be clear, a venturepreneur is half a breed of venture capitalist, which means I raise money for different reasons. And preneur is I actually get involved in the projects. Initially, I thought my success would be an upward trajectory. Quit my job, go do the startup. In 2-3 years, I should be successful. However, the diagnosis sort of came in, and it felt like being hit in the head with a brick. But at the same time, it has presented me with new opportunities and new ways of looking at things. And one of the things I'm glad to have done is developed an application that is for people kind of like me, who live alone, have a chronic disease, and at any moment in the night, you might find yourself having a heart attack, and all you have 2 minutes to get in touch with an ambulance, call the hospital, and call the next of kin. Now, for someone who's having a heart attack, you probably can't do that easily. So this application, with a push of a button, communicates to all the 3 partners at once, and we're test piloting it, and hopefully to help other people who are having the same struggles as I am having. But essentially, what I'm really proud of the most, though, is being able to take a step back and realizing that life doesn't evolve around the material things that we fuss about, like, how good is my job, how big is my house or television. It's actually what we do for each other, which is why I started the Patrick Sariange Foundation. And what I do with it is dedicate 10% of the earnings from Zebra Group towards educating male students in high school. Why male students? Well, because most of the problems that females face in the world are inflicted by men. So instead of trying to empower women, I think it's better to deal with the problem itself. And I'm proud to say that one of the students that we're sponsoring got 16 points on his USAE, and he's going to university, which is great. And that's the whole point of investing, because you have to take a leap and love people, you have to invest in them. And to me, as a venturepreneur, my greatest joy is not so much making money, but rather being able to invest in people and see the best in them and see how it's also going to turn out in the end. Because I myself, when I lost my parents and I was an orphan, my parents now took me on, invested in me, regardless of knowing how to turn out, hoping for the best. And because of that, I want to carry that forward with the Patrick Sariange Foundation. Thank you.